Welcome to Digging Deeper Ag Chats with Al, the fortnightly podcast from the Gippsland Agriculture Group. I'm Alison McAuliffe, and whether you're listening in the ute, on the tractor or in the yards, this is a podcast for practical conversations about farming in Gippsland. From autumn sowing and winter feed gaps, through to spring lambing, summer harvest and everything in between. We sit down with producers, advisors, researchers and industry people to dig a little deeper into the ideas, challenges and opportunities that matter on farm. We talk about livestock, pasture, markets and technology, but also the business of farming, making sound decisions, building resilient enterprises, being better prepared for the tough seasons and pressures that agriculture can often throw at us. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get into today's conversation. Now, before we get into today's conversation, just a quick update on the podcast. We've had a short break, and going forward, Digging Deeper will be moving from a weekly podcast to releasing one once a fortnight. There's a few reasons for that, but mainly it's about making a little more room for other commitments we have at the moment. There's a fair bit happening, and we want to make sure that we can keep doing the podcast well, rather than just trying to squeeze one in every single week. So the podcast is not going anywhere, it's just slowing down slightly. We will still be bringing you practical conversations, useful ideas, and good people from across agriculture, just on a fortnightly basis. Now, it's great to be back, and I'm really looking forward to today's conversation with Lecia. Okay, welcome everybody to Digging Deeper. We have a high-flying Lecia Angus here with us today, who's the paid chair of the Gippsland Ag Board. Welcome, Lecia.
Oh, thanks, Al. Good to be here.
Now, just for the listeners, I'm going to be out of my depth very soon. I read your bio, and you've always been a very softly spoken but authoritative figure in the workplace. But you've got a really big resume, which I'm a bit nervous to actually start working through because it's going to be well out of my depth.
I could never decide really what I wanted to do, so went out on a number of limbs.
Well, you said in there somewhere that every 10 years you seem to have a change of direction career. I actually only last about 5 years actually, so...
There you go, you'll have a huge resume.
Let's go right back to early days, because your parents weren't born onto farm, but they actually wanted a life in agriculture on rural properties. What was that like from a young Lecia? What do you remember about those times?
Yeah, I think they were really so passionate about agriculture and keen to learn. And my father had sort of fallen in love through with agriculture and farming through one of his school friends, and he used to go on holidays and be on the farm with his friend, and he just developed his interest from there. And
where did your father grow up, Lecia?
My father grew up basically in Melbourne, Berwick actually, around that area. But he was born in London. Right. My grandparents were in the health sector, and so they were travelling. So it wasn't like he was, living out in rural areas when he was young too. And then, just developed this passion, and I think Mum was up for a challenge and something exciting, and as young people do when they get together.
So where to and how old were you when you did move into a rural property?
So I was actually born. So I'm the third child in the family. So I was born when they were farming.
And where was that, Lecia?
Here in Bansdale. So I think they still had the farm at Glenaladale. Called Larapinta. It's still a farm there. Right.
And were they beef or sheep or?
They had sheep and cattle, and it was a very a pioneering block.
Right.
That's what they could afford. So they were always battling the bush, pushing it back, cutting trees. But it was from what I understand in their stories, a very rich culture, very tightly knit. Community group there. So, yeah.
Now, you just mentioned there about the bush, and you said that your experience with droughts, fires and floods actually quite affected you away from agriculture early days. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Oh, yeah. So it wasn't... I wasn't very old when my parents decided that living at Glenaladale and trying to eke a living out of that farm block wasn't going to necessarily get them to where they envisaged they wanted to be, and so they brought a different block of land, and that was out at Goonyua on the Red Gum Plains in Gippsland. And so growing up there from my very early years, right through to my mid-20s, and, we had our fair share of droughts and floods, and we had fire. And so I think they all have some sort of lasting impression on you. There are always hopes you're going to have a smooth run in terms of the season, and finally, not have to draw down all your operational money like you do from year to year, and you might be able to pay some things back. But sometimes those hopes are always dashed. And I think, I just was always interested in science and the environment and what was going on around me. And I really felt that, there was more to be pursued in that arena for me.
So high school in Bairnsdale?
No, actually, I went to school in Melbourne. I went to boarding school.
Right.
Yeah.
And then did you take any time off or straight into university? You said you pursued biology.
Yeah, so I did defer for a year and basically came back onto the farm. My parents went away and us three children came, well, we were young adults then, came back to the farm, and we ran the farm while my parents were away in that particular year. Yeah, had a ball, actually.
Yeah. Did the farm go forward or...?
I think so.
Yeah.
Plenty of fencing done, plenty of trees planted, the normal stock things happened. We probably weren't cropping a lot, at that stage. So, yeah.
So were your parents croppers?
They became croppers, yes.
Yeah.
My brother had a very strong interest in cropping, and he swung them into that.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did you study when you went off to uni?
Yeah, I studied straight science and ended up specialising in genetics and chemistry and biochemistry, actually. So, it was great. Like, I loved that learning environment. But, yeah, at the same time, most people would share the same view by the time they go through university. They're hungry for a job, hungry for a bit of income,
Yeah.
Get out in the real world.
Just for interest's sake, what did you buy with your first paycheck? Do you remember?
I
was
I don't.
I was a teacher. Went off to uni, and my first paycheck, I actually bought a TV for myself. So,
wow,
yeah,
big time.
Yep, splurged and enjoyed it. But going 4 years through uni, not having any money, all of a sudden your first paycheck, you felt like a king. So,
yeah, well, I had a car because like country kids, cars are so important, and it's your independence and all that sort of thing. So I already had a car, and my way of paying car, the deal between my father and myself was that I got to dip the sheep, and I was paid a little bit for every sheep that went through the sheep dip. So that's how that car came about, and that was pretty important for me.
Some nasty chemicals back in the day there, Lecia.
Yeah, they were. I shudder now thinking about that.
Yeah, I remember the sheep dip at my grandfather's place where the overflow was. It was bare ground for about, would have been at least 15 or 20 years after they stopped ever using that stuff.
Yeah.
So she was nasty. Now, you said that you worked straight out of university. What was your first job out of uni?
Yeah, so my first job was actually with the biochemistry school at Trobe University.
So this is where I'm getting out of my depth already, everyone. So you have to...
I really had my heart set on coming back to Bairnsdale and this area and getting a job and being able to pursue my interests, but living in a country, back home, really. However, the sort of work I was after was like roles with the Regional Veterinary Laboratory, which was open then, and you couldn't leave university and go and work for them straight away. So I needed to get a job. And then I just got this job with Trobe University, and I loved it. Like, it was doing research work and in a research lab and, on things that matter, like genetic diseases in young children that are affecting young children. So, yeah, it really kind of sucked me in. But then I did get offered a job with the Regional Vet Lab, 6 months later, because I'd done my sort of,
Done your
time
Yeah.
in this other role. And so I shifted back here to Bairnsdale to work.
Right. So you've been here for a fair chunk of your life then?
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of.
Because then with that particular, I'd had this taste of this, very inspiring workplace, being a research lab, lots of academic interaction, came back. And then after a couple of years in the veterinary laboratory, it was really good. I learnt a lot, but I didn't find it, the research intensity wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd come across another group when I was working at the Trobe University that was with the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute of Medical Research. That was part of Melbourne University. And I decided, right, I'm going to go back and do some more study, and it's going to be in medical biology. So off I went.
And where did that lead to?
So that led to work on a malaria vaccine, and then I went across into cancer hematology research. And so I became a research assistant, and then I was particularly interested in the translation of science into, medical procedures or things that are very useful for society. So I got into more of the translation of science, and my career kind of started that overall theme that's been with me for decades now, so translating science into useful things for the community.
So you've worked a fair bit with the GRDC.
Yeah.
Is that one of the moves that you saw was something you wanted to do, to see the practical application of what you're doing?
Yeah, it was Al, but it was also, my partner had an opportunity to move, and I'd spent, more than my 10 year,
Yeah, time for
10
a change.
years at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute, time for a change and changing into different sectors. So I was changed back into agriculture. It really pushes you, it really challenges. There's lots of learnings because you translate things from one sector to another, but there's also a lot of commonality because a lot of the principles around research go across sectors, like, be it sheep genomics or, cattle infertility or whatever it might be. There are parallels.
Right. And so what was your main role at GRDC? Did you have a specific thing that you were working on, or were you quite broad?
Yeah, so in GRDC, I first started contracting with them, and I was the executive officer for an unincorporated joint venture. It's called Grain Gene. In that time, it involved Syngenta and CSIRO and AWB, which existed. And
what was AWB, the acronym?
Australian Wheat Board.
Right.
And also Grains Research and Development Corporation. And then after a while, they asked me to actually throw my hat in a ring for a more formal role. And I started as the program manager for wheat and barley breeding. And so you're not actually doing the technical elements of the work. What you're doing is managing the investment into multiple serial breeding programs. So that's how I spent my first 3 years or so in Grains Research and Development Corporation. Absolutely loved it. Really externally focused, like meeting with lots of different groups and, that were making exciting progress and really listening to what farmers wanted to do. So that was my first role. The second role...
Just on that one, for the croppers out there, are there any notable varieties in your time there that you remember that they might know?
Wow. Barley, Baudin, Hindmarsh. Just trying to think about wheat. a whole suite of AGT. What they had weapon names, I think.
Weapon names. Yeah, right.
And Long Reach Plant Breeders was also producing good varieties as well. But that most of the breeding companies adopted themes for the names of their varieties when it was, I said weapons, or in Western Australia for the barley varieties, it was like explorers' names,
Right.
and things like that. So
All my pets are named after rifle brands, actually. It limits down what you can call a dog or a cat, so
yeah,
makes it a bit easier. Now, it sounds like a lot of this work was not based here. Where were you based in your time with all that?
yeah. So I was based in Canberra,
Right.
and we lived in Canberra for 14 years or so.
Right.
Yeah.
And was there much travel involved in that, or was it?
Yes, there was.
Yeah.
And and most of the time the travel was good because I love all the, looking out and engaging with different groups.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, when I changed roles in GRDC, I became more internally focused, and I started running all the internal functions like the legal, the finances, or the governance side of things, and the business cycle. And so that, to me, it was really necessary and it's really important, but it probably didn't fit as well with what I like doing, as compared to sort of travelling and meeting with these external groups.
Yeah, it sounds like we're getting to the end of a 10-year cycle as well. So what happened after your time with GRDC and the other groups?
Yeah, so it was very much running out, that I've been here, done that. I think I'm losing my absolute passion for, what can be done here. It's time for a bit of renewal. And decided I had enough network and contacts to go consulting.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 2014, that's what I did. And at the same time, two of my colleagues, one was in CSIRO in business development, and another colleague who also worked with GRDC in crop protection. We all left at the same time.
Big hole.
And so we all had individual consulting companies, but we could cross-fertilise with each other, and, if we needed extra resources, there was kind of a team to bounce off, which was really good.
And was that a tough transition, or did it go fairly smoothly and it was a successful move?
Oh, no, it was... I was really lucky, because Grains Research and Development Corporation gave me work, and then a lot of the organisations I'd been interacting with whilst I was a executive manager at the end there gave me work. And so you kind of have a honeymoon. I think many people have a honeymoon, sort of 2 to 3 years when they first leave an organisation, and it gives you that opportunity to start building your pipeline and, building up your network of organisations that you do work for.
Now, your consultancy is still established, your consultancy business? You still do work in it?
Yeah, we're really slowing down now, though.
Well, it is 2024, so that's 11 years you've been doing that. But what sort of advice, or who are you actually advising? Because it's not, I guess, regular run-of-the-mill primary production properties.
Who are clients?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it very much started out as the network that I had through my role with GRDC. So it was the universities. It was for the Council of Research and Development Corporations. It was for industry bodies. It was from, various departments of agriculture in the States. So it was that sort of level. It wasn't directly with farmers who were managing land or managing farms. And then as time went on, we got involved. So we went to New Zealand for a little while, so 6 months, because I could do my work from anywhere. My partner was filling a management gap over there in New Zealand, had a great time. And then when we came back to Australia, we sort of landed in the middle of the fires, the Gippsland. Well, there were a lot of fires.
The 19 fires?
The 1920 fires, yeah. And so we propped at Marlo, where we had a house. So Marlo is in East Gippsland. And then we kind of just rolled into COVID, and we hadn't really thought about where we were going to be long term or anything like that. And it's a very beautiful spot. So we started just being there in Marlo. And with the subsequent closing of the logging of public forests, we started helping people around their grants and grant applications and trying to navigate that pathway. So we started sort of doing some local government work and some of that business transition, as well as continuing on and working with some of the larger clients, more corporate clients.
Yeah, and you've actually done a bit of planting down that way yourself, is that correct?
Yeah, we have. So we have a 10-hectare block of land at Orbost. We're very fortunate to have got that. And both our families, so my partner's family and my family, love, planting windbreaks and shelter belts and always been interested in that side of things. So we decided that given the size of the block of land and it wasn't really viable to do much else with it, in our view, we put shelter belts around the outside, the boundaries, and then we've taken the core of the block and planted hardwood, so eucalypts, and also we planted some blackwood, and we'll tend those as a plantation, and hopefully maybe the next generation will actually harvest them, because it's a long-term thing.
Yeah,
so
how many
so
years?
25, 30 years.
Yeah, right. Well,
and we're only 5 years in.
Right, yeah, it's another 20-odd years to go.
Yeah.
And so does it take a fair bit of machinery to establish something like that, if people are listening and interested in doing it, or is a lot of it just hand planted?
Well, naturally it depends on your scale. For our scale, which is really just, farm trees, on-farm trees type scale, we did it all by hand. And, yeah, it keeps us fit. And you can't... Well, we didn't have the good fortune about just picking the right species and, successfully growing them. We replanted particular areas on the block multiple times, be it from frost or some sort of nutrient problem or whatever it was, or just not the right species. So a big learning curve. But in terms of machinery, not yet. But, there needs to be some sort of evolution, I think, in portable milling. There was a portable mill. There was the Lucas mill that was here that caught my eye at the field days.
I know someone that's got one of them. So,
oh, do you?
Yeah. Yep.
But, so just always watching the space, what could happen then.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if it was in the email or not, but you've actually started another little planting project not too far away. Happy to talk about that at the minute?
Yeah, that's very early days.
Yeah. This one really excites me, actually.
Does it?
Yeah. It's right up my alley. It's something that I've always enjoyed. But, yeah, so explain to listeners what you're actually planning to do. Yeah,
so we're after another block of land, completely different landscape, and a bit closer to Melbourne, and we picked up a 10-hectare block of land at Briagolong, so a lot drier and probably more hostile soil than what we've got in Orbost. And we want to intensify agriculture on that block, and we've investigating growing olives, but not necessarily having them as trees with, quite a thick trunk. So there's this new intense way of growing olives for oil, and you basically trellis them like a vineyard.
Like a grape, yep.
Yeah. And so, that's what we're aiming to do is
Right.
to
So
aim.
how far down is this an idea, or is actually some earth being turned, so to speak?
Earth has not been turned. Soil tests have been done, and seedlings have been ordered.
Right. So it's happening.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. And what
Yeah.
sort of, from planting to your first drop of oil, used to be back in the day like 7 odd years from memory, but new varieties, I'm assuming it's a bit quicker than that now.
Yeah, like I think you can get some fruit in the second year. It won't be full on yield. So it's very, very quick.
Yes.
And then obviously your management and your pruning will affect what you get consistently through the years after that. But yeah, hopefully we'll get, if we plant this spring, hopefully in 2 years' time, so in, 28,
Yeah.
come and visit.
Yeah. Now, the next question is, are you planning to set up a little pressing setup on the farm, or is it somewhere you can just take crates of olives and someone else will press them for you?
I think it's a bit cost prohibitive for that scale at the moment to have our own press, but we're sort of getting a bit of intel on other olive growers in the area, and there might be a cooperative way of getting our pressing and getting the oil extracted. So it's just going to be a bit of a wait and see. I think.
Oh, it's exciting. Something I'll follow with keen interest as the years go by. Now, we're going to change tracks just a little bit because we've got something to talk about that was an issue last year, and while we were battling it here at the research farm, I didn't realise that you'd done so much work on it, and that's armyworm. And so you've actually done a fair bit of research in armyworm. We had a fair bit of crop damage last year in our trials from the armyworm. We've actually got a podcast with Olivia Betts from Elders, an agronomist, who spoke about it. But I didn't actually realise that you'd done so much work on armyworm. So
I really, we have an interest in fall armyworm, and I think here we might have got a plague of
common, they call it. Yeah.
Common armyworm. So fall armyworm was exotic to Australia before, I think it was 2019, and we knew it was out there. Like GRDC and other organisations, Hort Innovation, they all do these scans for exotic threats to Australia. So it was on the horizon, but then it came to Australia and it started up on the Queensland coast and loves that sort of warmer tropical climate, and there's a lot of veggies growing up there as well, and that is a prime food source for fall armyworm, and it can do a lot of damage. One of the things about fall armyworm in other countries is that the crop protection strategies, particularly the chemicals used, they can develop resistance. And so farmers need a lot of different ways of controlling pests, and they need to be able to integrate those to keep the effectiveness against that pest for as long as they can. And we were introduced to a new technology overseas in the United States, which was the production of a very specific pheromone from fall armyworm itself. And when this pheromone is released from a trap, like in the paddock, it causes confusion with the males trying to find females. So it's a mating disruptor. And so that is what we're trying to get deregulated, or regulatory approval is the right word.
So it's not in Australia just yet?
It is in Australia, and it is working its way down the coast.
The pheromone disruptors.
It's only been in Australia as a trial.
Right.
It's not a commercial product as yet. But we're hoping very soon, like in the next 12 months, that we will have the approval from the Pesticide and Veterinary Medicines Authority.
Yep. So you're still working on this currently, are you?
Yeah. So we really work on behalf of the technology owner, who's based in the United States, and we then liaise with a distributing organisation who's got who's actually running the trials, and they will be the ones that do the distribution. So that's called AgNova.
Yeah, I had no idea, and I realise now looking back that's why you showed such a keen interest when we're talking about this armyworm, but I had no idea. And apparently we do get full armyworm here in some
we
years,
do.
so
Yeah.
but the ones that we were experiencing weren't. And the fall armyworm, from what I understand, is the one that really devastates crops. Apparently overnight they can just about chew through a whole.
Yeah, and they've got a really wide range of hosts. For the broadacre crops, I think there will be times when it's economically significant, but there are still some effective, spray regimes to control it. But it's just having a number of tools in the kit and being prepared for when the time comes if resistance emerges, and this is just another product.
Probably when more than if. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. We'll be following that along now with keen interest. Now, I mentioned at the very start, you're actually the chair of the Gippsland Agriculture Group, and we're obviously extremely lucky to have you in that position. So what does the Gippsland Agriculture mean to you, and why are we happy to put your hand up for this role?
Yeah. I'm trying to order my thoughts here because, it's just sort of one of those things where you look at an organisation and you think, wow, they're really doing good things. They've really got traction. And that's how I saw Gippsland Ag Group. I could see that they were maturing, and then suddenly an opportunity came up, and I have time capacity. And we also, my partner and I, have a willingness to give substantial time to projects. This is a paid position, but you can give more if you like. And I think that it's the difference on the ground, getting back to that translation of science, making things useful. And farmers are just, to me, it's such a challenging occupation, and it is so necessary. And we have to be able to keep producing our food and look after our natural resource base and understand the markets and manage all these complex interacting things. And I just really admire farmers. And so anything that we can do to help our farmers and to help that supply of food, healthy food, all those things is just so necessary and worthwhile. It's a good cause.
How long have you been in the position for, Lecia?
Not quite 12 months.
Oh, so coming up to a year. So we've got another 9 years with you, which is good. What do you see some of the issues, opportunities since you've been in, I guess, the grassroots of primary agriculture? What are some of the things that you're seeing are some of the concerns and some of the opportunities as you've spent the last 12 months here?
Yeah, so starting on the challenges, like input costs, they've always been a challenge, but wow, did we ever see that they were going to be such a challenge? And just the whole turning on its head, the reliability of our trade. Sure, we produce plenty of food here in Australia, and it's very necessary for us to export to get those export volumes onto the market. But then we're really dependent on fertilisers coming from other places and fuel coming from other places into Australia. And, did we realise how fragile our system actually was? So to me, the input challenge is very significant. The chemical challenge, I think emissions and negating our emissions is a steadier, it's a challenge. It's something to be addressed, but I don't put it in the same challenge basket as the rise of the major inputs in recent time. In terms of the opportunities, I think there's this absolute passion for understanding our soils in this area and unlocking. Like there's a lot of variety. Like we have lots of different pockets in Gippsland, and so we can tailor that a little bit more towards the pockets and really working on what might unlock some of those nutrients that are in the soil and how can we make better use of our nitrogen. You know, the same old mantra, I guess, that we've been hearing for years, but doing it more specifically, I think, and tailoring it.
Well, Australia's always been known in the primary industry area to get a lot out of what we have, and taking that even further is pretty exciting with what we're learning in recent times. And we've actually got a few projects on the go at the minute, which are pretty much specifically for that. And so listen out with keen interest. Now, at the end of each podcast, Lecia, we ask the guests one question, and that would be, if you could sit down with a young yourself, what advice would you give Lecia when you were a young person?
Yeah, like, would I take it?
Yeah, we don't mind.
It's pretty headstrong, you know.
Yeah, most young people are, but
yeah. I think it would be something along the lines of stop churning about a really big issues out there that, you know, tend to play in your mind but are out of your sphere of influence. And try to break them down a little bit and pick off a small bit of it that you can actually do something about it and isolate that bit and be content that you've made a decision that your role is to just tackle this little bit.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice, and I think sometimes with some of the big challenges we do face, it gets overwhelming, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And some things are outside of our control, some things we can control, and focus on those, make good decisions around those. And over time, you'll get through a lot of work that's helpful for your organisation. So
yeah,
I really appreciate you spending the time with us here today, Lecia, and learnt a lot. Anyone listening, if you haven't met Lecia and you're at an event, make sure you go and say hi and put a face to the name. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Al. Great talking with you.
No worries. All right.
Okay,
bye for
bye.
now. A big thank you for tuning in today. And remember, if you have a question about today's episode or a topic you'd like us to cover, reach out to one of our many platforms and join the conversation. We're here because of your passion and commitment to agriculture. Together, we can build a stronger farming future.
This podcast is made possible by the Future Drought Fund Regional Drought Resilience Planning Program, co-funded by the Victorian and Australian governments.